Lando Norris does the double on the opening day of the British Grand Prix, topping first and second practice at Silverstone. From Racing News 365, my name is Nick Golding and I'm joined as always by lead editor Ian Parks, who is not Ian Poncho Parks this time, despite the fact it is heavily raining. Ian, it's been a really weird day because obviously Norris topped FP1 and FP2. We even had a McLaren 1-2 in FP2, but this rain that's behind you now was due to come in free practice too. It's kind of been 2 full days, full sessions of dry running, which wasn't expected. And as a result, no team has really shown its true potential. It's been one of those odd days for a Friday in F1.
Yeah, hello everyone, and a very wet rather than a very warm welcome from Silverstone. As you can see behind, it is absolutely lashing it down right now. The rain started just as FP2 was coming to a close. As you say, Nick, at least the drivers managed to get in pretty much 2 full hours of good running around Silverstone. And yes, we have a McLaren 1-2, not so much a McLaren 1-2, but a Lando Norris just dominating today in many respects. However, he has made it pretty clear with regard to one team in particular, and it's perhaps not the team you would expect, that they were sandbagging during practice. And he is in fact referring to Mercedes. Now, Mercedes, Lewis Hamilton and George Russell were down the order at the end of FP2. I think they were 7th and 10th. Correct me if I'm wrong, Nick, but I think I've got that one right.
6th and 10th. 6th and 10th.
6th and 10th. Thank you ever so much. So Lando way out in front by a third of a second over his teammate Oscar Piastri. The nearest rival from one of the other F1 teams was actually Checo Perez rather than Max Verstappen, you might have thought. Max was first out on the soft tyres in FP2, just 15 minutes gone, did a bit of medium tyre running there just to bed in it to a certain extent. As I say, 15 minutes gone, out on the soft tyres straight away because the rain was due to come in much earlier than it actually did. So he got a good soft tyre run in, shot to the top of the timesheet, as you would expect. But when he came to his second run on a set of soft tyres, he made a mistake through Cox, ran wide, and that was him done for the day, pretty much in terms of fast tyre running. After that, it was then just getting a baseline with regard to medium tyres. So Max a little bit down the order compared to where he might have been, and instead it was Checo Perez who was the best of the rest behind the McLarens for the day.
So you mentioned there Max Verstappen, he was actually P7, 7/10ths off Norris, but as we kind of mentioned, there's been several teams today yet to show their true colours because the forecast and the weather has not done as it always does in England. Not what it was expected to do, and of course that's the same going into the rest of the weekend. It's unknown whether it's going to be dry, whether it's going to be wet. A lot of the drivers seem to think we've got some wet weather coming, but who do you think following today is looking the best? Because as you mentioned, Norris has his eye on Mercedes.
He's got his eye on Mercedes, but when you look at what he achieved in second practice, and we also have to bear in mind that the McLarens this weekend are running with a new rear wing that specifically targets low downforce circuits like Silverstone. And this is a classic low downforce track. So right now, that rear wing on the McLaren looks like it's doing its job. As I say, McLaren Lando in particular, over 0.4 of a second clear of Checo Perez, who was third quickest. So for me, Lando is certainly looking like he's got his eye in. As I say, Max made that small mistake. It was only small, just enough to take him off out of Copse. But at least for now, Lando will come out of Friday feeling in a good place. Max is likely thinking that he's not quite optimized the setup yet, not quite as one with the circuit going forward. So while we're still expecting one heck of a lot more from Max and Red Bull, that's for sure, because we know what they can do. For now, Lando's looking, for me, best placed, and he's probably got it quite right that we've not quite seen the best of the Mercedes yet. Feels that they were running a different setup to most others across the board. So almost certainly Mercedes has not yet played its hand. It's going to be a fascinating day tomorrow. We are expecting a dry Saturday. Temperatures, though, not great. We're looking at 15, 16 degrees maximum. So really quite cool for this time of year. We know what Silverstone can be like. We know what British Julys can be like, but certainly definitely a lot cooler than previous Julys that we've experienced. We do sometimes get hot weather here, folks, I can promise you, but this is just one of those weekends where it's not going to be the case. Lando has specifically stated as well that he really would prefer it to be dry because he knows that that's going to play to the strengths of this car. Bit of an unknown as to how it might perform in wet conditions. And at this stage, there is the possibility that there might be some wet weather coming in for the race on Sunday. Yet to be seen, of course, because right now, this heavy wet weather wasn't specifically forecast. It was due to rain, not as bad as has occurred right now. So, got to see what's going to happen over the course of the weekend. It could be weather dependent. If so, it's going to be a fascinating encounter as to who's going to be the best in whatever conditions that we're going to be facing across these next 2 days.
Even if it doesn't rain, though, one team we know that doesn't like the chilly conditions are Ferrari. They ended up on Friday in 5th and 8th, so a disappointing day for them. And the thing that's fascinating with the weather is that the average in the UK for July is 23 degrees. We're currently around 6 degrees cooler than that, so that shows just how cold it actually is at Silverstone, where, yes, it does rain quite a lot, but the weather is still playing a massive factor even when it is dry. On the note, though, of the weather being chilly, something which is not chilly and remains red hot is last week's incident between Max Verstappen and Lando Norris. We've had the fallout throughout this week. Both drivers have brushed it under the carpet. However, McLaren team principal Andrea Stella, it is very much a heated and red hot topic for him.
Yeah, he's not letting this one go, and it's on the basis that, as he's put it, they've studied data, GPS, the conditions, everything associated with that, and they've actually gone to the FIA to seek clarification on the basis of the fact that they are absolutely 100% convinced that Max Verstappen definitely did breach the driving standards guidelines under the topic of moving under braking. Within the guidelines, which are not currently enshrined within the FIA regulations, but they are due to be from next season, moving under braking basically relates to the fact that a driver cannot brake whilst decelerating into a corner unless taking the racing line through that corner. Now, as we saw, there were numerous instances of Max seemingly doing this, moving under braking whilst not necessarily taking the racing line because he was defending from Lando's attacks. Now, the thing about this moving whilst under braking and the defence thereof, there are numerous mitigating circumstances that stewards have to take into consideration to determine whether an offence has been committed. It could be to do with the tyre wear, for argument's sake, the type of corner, the actual move from the driver behind, how much of an attack was it? How much did the driver in front actually have to defend? It's a numerous bullet point list. I think it's about 7 or 8 in total, as I say, that cover numerous mitigating circumstances. It's not black and white. It's not a technical regulation whereby, as we've seen in the past this season, Haas in Monaco, black and white regulation breach, they got disqualified from qualifying in Monaco. That's not the case. That's why the drivers are often confused. Carlos Sainz, and I'll mention him in particular, during his driver session media session on Thursday, referenced the fact that there are regulations for defending to the outside, defending to the inside, attacking to the outside, attacking to the inside. And a driver has to think about these things all whilst racing, as he put it, at 300 kilometers an hour, and he's struggling to, know what to do for the best in those circumstances. And you've got to think that turn 3 corner at the Red Bull Ring, which is of course where all those incidents took place between Lando and Max during the course of the Austrian Grand Prix, occurred going at it up the hill, high speed, Lando having DRS, of course, that aided his approach into that corner, his momentum and speed, etc., all going into a high decelerating, sharp right-hander turn 3. So there's lots of, as I say, mitigating circumstances at play with regards to how to attack, with regards to how to defend. It's not black and white. However, McLaren and Andrea Stella in particular are adamant that what they saw through all the data is Max moving under braking, which, despite the mitigating circumstances, is not allowed. So they sought the clarification from the FIA, and funnily enough, their building, as I'm standing to you speaking, is right in front of me, their paddock building, just as it happens. So I've asked the FIA for a response, still waiting for clarification from them as to Andrea Stella's comments and their approach as to what might come back from them. But as you say, Nick, it has been ongoing now for these past 5 days. There is still fallout. Zach Brown as well in the FIA team principals press conference today, standing in for Andrea Stella. The CEO took the place of him in today's press conference. And he was making quite clear that he's not happy with Red Bull, Christian Horner, Giampiero Lambiase, Max's Red Bull engineer that you hear so often over the radio, for seeming to encourage Max in many respects, rather than not so much admonish or say, no, Max, you can't do that, but encourage him, as I say, rather than downplay things. So Zach Brown not happy with some of the comments that came out from Red Bull over the course of the Austrian Grand Prix weekend. The fallout is still going on. It is likely to continue over the course of this weekend. And if those two go wheel to wheel again on any particular part of the Silverstone circuit over the course of, certainly during the race in particular, then it's going to be an absolutely fascinating watch to see how that comes out.
Well, like I said, at least on the brighter side, it makes for an exciting watch for us, because that's what we want to see. We want to see close racing, and I suppose some of the fallout as well, it just gives us these storylines which are then so fascinating to follow. And the thing that's been so fascinating this time is that the drivers are kind of, like I said, moved past it. It's those who are higher up in the teams that are still very much going back and forth. Looking ahead though to Saturday, and of course it all depends on what happens with the weather. Ian, a qualifying bold prediction.
I think we got to watch out for Haas, and in particular Nico Hülkenberg, because we know he's been a particularly good qualifier this season. Now, the VF24 has come here into this weekend with a significant upgrade package. Its biggest upgrade package of the season, that's for certain. And yeah, okay, we can't read too much into Friday practice times, as we all know. What are the setups? What are the fuel loads, etc.? But Nico Hülkenberg delivered the 4th quickest time at the end of FP2. His teammate Kevin Magnussen, in stark contrast, was at the bottom. However, his one and only soft tyre blast, he went off track as well. So we didn't get a read from him as to what he could potentially do on those soft tyres and whether he was on par with Nico, certainly. But they're looking quite good. So I'm going to go comfortably at least one Haas driver. Well, not at least one. I'm going to go specifically Nico Hülkenberg, top 10 in qualifying on Saturday.
Yeah, that's a pretty good one. I'll give you that. And actually, we know as well that even if it does rain, Nico Hülkenberg is a pretty good driver in the wet, so that you're suited for whether it's wet or dry. I'm going to go, based on Lando's comments, for a Mercedes on the front row, which I'm not sure, because Lewis has had the edge today, but qualifying we've seen George seem to do the better job. So I'm going to go for a Mercedes on the front row. I think it's going to be between Lando and Oscar for pole. But anyways, that's what I think. Ian, amazing as always. But before I let you go, we of course need to mention Racing News 365's latest prize giveaway, where we are giving away tickets to this season's Belgian Grand Prix. If you want to be in with a chance of winning, all you need to do is be subscribed to this YouTube channel, racingnews365.com, and comment below who you'd like to take with you and why. It is as simple as that. And for those that win, all I can do is say I hope the weather is better than it is at Silverstone. From myself and Ian, this has been the latest F1 update. We will see you after qualifying tomorrow. See you later.
Just a quick note on that, Nick. It's Spa at the end of the day.
It's Spa.
And we know there's often a bit of rain at Spa. So if whoever wins that prize, make sure you take your poncho, cagoule, umbrella, whatever wet weather gear, because we know what Spa is like. Thanks ever so much, folks. Keep subscribing, and good luck with that competition.